Good morning, everyone, and welcome to a special pre-recorded episode of Wake and Take. It is Wednesday, and we are going to be talking about some of the biggest news stories around the NFL this week. So go ahead and take out your coffee, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. All right, welcome in, everyone. Glad to see you all this morning. I hope you are doing well. As mentioned before, this is a recorded episode. I am tending to a family thing this morning that has kept me away from Wake and Take, but I wanted to make sure that I could be here for the people. I'm a man of the people after all. And today I did want to take a little bit of not a break, but a pause, right? We go through this season, right? And we just talk about waivers, reactions. We do the buys, the sells, the games of the week and all that stuff, but we haven't had a chance really to go over the news. And as we're heading towards the end of the season, news does become more important as we start to put on our dynasty lens a little bit. And also, teams are trying to finish the year. You know, we still have some injury news as well as just some, just other stuff to talk about in general. And I figured, lots of trade deadlines are over. We've already gone over my playoff buys. You guys already know those. You know my playoff sells. So I just wanted to talk about some of the big stories going on. So why don't we go ahead and do this? And I did wait until later Tuesday afternoon to record this, so I might have missed some stuff, but at the very least, we did have two big news stories drop that are unfortunate. We're going to start with the Browns. The Cleveland Browns are going ahead and starting, you guessed it, Dorian Thompson-Robinson at quarterback this week. Now, as we talked about on Monday in our reactions episode, we already knew, right, that the Browns were kind of going back and forth. Should we be benching Jameis Winston? Should we go into Dorian Thompson-Robinson? They were being non-committal. And well, generally when they are non-committal, they are going to go ahead and pull the plug. But I spoke to the Cleveland Browns on Monday's episode and said it didn't make much sense to me. It really doesn't make much sense to me because at this point, the season is lost. Jameis Winston's losing games. Dorian Thompson-Robinson is losing games as well. In fact, DTR this year has had a few opportunities. He's had one game where he was able to start for most of it, and then he did come in last week for a little bit. And he only has about a 45% completion percentage. He's thrown the ball 32 times and only has exactly 100 passing yards. He has no touchdowns, and he has 3 interceptions. So really, he hasn't even been good. And what I pleaded to the Cleveland Browns was the fact that while Jameis Winston's turning the ball over, while they're losing games, it doesn't really matter because Jameis Winston gives you the best chance to evaluate the rest of the roster. With Jameis Winston at the helm, Jerry Jeudy was better. Cedric Tillman was better. The defense even showed up a bit just because of the leadership that Jabu was bringing to the team. And with DTR at the helm, it's not going to be fun at all. It's just not. Dorian Thompson-Robinson doesn't sling the ball like Jameis Winston does. He doesn't have the ceiling that Jameis Winston does. And in fact, he doesn't even have the floor that Jameis Winston does. This is a bad move. And the Cleveland Browns continuously make decisions that show they are one of the worst run franchises in the NFL. Jamie, I'm sorry, but that's just what it is. They can't do it. They just can't make good decisions. I don't know what it is. I don't know who the Cleveland Browns pissed off in a past life, but I just don't understand why you would pull the plug on Jameis Winston with only a few weeks left in the season when the offense is playing the way it is. I mean, Jerry Jeudy looks like an all-star out there. When was the last time? When have we ever been able to say Jerry Jeudy looks like an all-star? So I'm just supremely disappointed in this decision. I've got to be honest with you. Can you start Dorian Thompson-Robinson in Superflex? Probably not. As we talked about, he has a sub 50% completion percentage, no touchdowns, and 3 interceptions in his limited action this season. He wasn't that great last season either. And the only reason the Browns were even doing anything, showing any signs of life, was just the fact that Jameis Winston was at the helm, and he's just going to sling that thing no matter what. And so I am concerned for any Browns players really going for the rest of the season. I'm sure they'll be fine. Jerome Ford in particular, right? Like with no Nick Chubb, I'm sure he'll have a floor. But every single player's ceiling is zapped. Every single player, except for maybe Ford's floor, is zapped as well. Horrible move by Cleveland. Really can't think of a positive. So let's move on to another negative story, as the Titans are also moving to bench their quarterback and will be rolling forward with, assumedly Mason Rudolph at quarterback, benching Will Levis for the rest of the season. And I really just want to say, no! Because I got fooled. I didn't really believe in Will Levis much as a rookie. I just heard all the hype and kind of bought into it a little bit, to be completely honest with you. This year in particular, we talked about it. I liked the Tennessee Titans offense a lot. I was drafting Will Levis and redrafted Superflex as like my third quarterback. I was taking Tony Pollard. It seemed sneaky. DeAndre Hopkins, Calvin Ridley, right? Tony Pollard, Tyjae Spears, Will Levis. Callahan coming from Cincinnati. It seemed to make sense that the Tennessee Titans offense would look good so long as Will Levis looked good. And we saw this before this season, right? Will Levis came out the first few weeks of the season and did not look good and did get benched. Did have a little bit of an injury as well, but was benched for Mason Rudolph. And we saw Mason Rudolph go out there and play fine. He wasn't that much better, but did turn the ball over less. And with that, the Titans did kind of decide, well, maybe Levis has sat enough. We'll put him back out there, see what he can do. And, well, he actually looked good there for a second. Weeks 10, 11, 12, 13, he didn't have a single game under 15 points. And, in fact, had 7 touchdowns and only 2 interceptions. He had 3 straight games with 200 passing yards. And was looking like he had actually kind of saved his job. In fact, I went out and traded for him in a dynasty league, the Trade Gods Invitational League, that I was eliminated for the playoffs at this point, or I would really needed a miracle, and it was 1% chance. And so I pivoted, and I was like, you know what, Will Levis would be an interesting QB to buy. I do think he's trending in the right direction. I like this Titans offense. I like Will Levis's potential. And then literally the week after trading for him, he goes up against the Jacksonville Jaguars, throws the ball 32 times for 60% completion, only 168 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions at least, but just a bad game. And then this week against the Bengals, which, by the way, we called. So I'm a little upset at the Titans for not having a little bit of foresight here. Why wouldn't the Bengals destroy a Brian Callahan team? But he got benched. He threw the ball 12 times, 89 passing yards, and threw 3 interceptions. It was a horrible game, negative 1.4 points, and has now more than likely lost his job. The Tennessee Titans have the number 6 pick right now. And, it seemed that maybe they would take a wide receiver with that pick to help out Will Levis and start building that offense. But we have to look ourselves in the face and say the Tennessee Titans are more than likely taking a quarterback, and the Will Levis experiment is done. More than likely. If you still believe in him, I'm sure that with this benching, especially if Mason Rudolph goes out there this week and plays well, you could probably get Will Levis for next to nothing in Superflex Dynasty leagues, and I wouldn't mind it. But for the most part, I would put his dynasty values over with, as unfortunate as it is. And so you already heard my no. I'm just in pain because I did believe in this Will Levis guy. I believed in this Titans offense this year. I went and bought into Will Levis after his 4-game stretch. It looked like he was trending in the right direction. And then, of course, I cursed him. I cursed him by putting him on my team. And now it's over, more than likely. Again, there's still a small chance that they do end up taking wide receiver. But more than likely, they're going to take a quarterback. And Will Levis will be a backup. And that's all she wrote. That is all she wrote about that Will Levis situation. We've got a few more news stories to get into. But before we talk those news stories, I do want to play a little bit of an ad break. What's going on in Fast Draft DFS?
Oh, incredible news about Fast Draft. Fast Draft DFS is live. It's called the Flex 6 Frenzy. You just draft 6 guys, running backs, wide receivers, tight ends for the Sunday slate. You like Jahmyr Gibbs? You like Jackson Smith and Jigba? You like Tyrone Tracy? Draft him, draft him, draft him. And the beauty is, you can just order 5 teams, submit your rankings, and Fast Draft will email you the results. We awarded $1,000 in prizes our first week, and we're just going up from there. Soon is going to be a select 6. No drafting at all. You just pick any 6 guys. Our DFS mantra, just say no to salaries on Fast Draft. Don't forget there's free tools on Fast Draft too. You want to get ready for startup season? We've created the best Dynasty mock draft experience there is. And if you want to play in these DFS contests, and our best ball contest for 2025 are coming very soon too, just use promo code PODFATHER when you deposit and you get a free draft. It's that easy. And you're like, oh, I already have Fast Draft. Great. Refer a friend. Have them put your username in as the promo code, and then you and your friend will both get an instant deposit match up to $25. We got DFS. We got Dynasty Mocks. We got Best Ball. It's all there for you on fastdraft.app. Check it out. And the promo code is PODFATHER.
Definitely go check out Fast Draft. The Week 16 Flex 6 Frenzy is live, and I hear that there's maybe some other tournaments in the works, so just keep your eyes on Fast Draft. Great things happening there. You can also use promo code JASON for a first deposit match up to $25. That'll get you 5 entries into each weekly contest. $25 is 5 drafts. It's incredible. Go check out Fast Draft. Whew. I'm coming down with something. If you can't really tell in my voice, I feel like I have like a frog in there. Patrick Mahomes, ladies and gentlemen, is not ruled out this week. Of course, we saw he suffered a mild high ankle sprain as it was reported. And it seemed that he was more than likely going to be done for at least the fantasy season, but we knew he'd be good for probably the playoffs and maybe even week 18 if it was important. You know, the Chiefs are already 2 games ahead of the Bills. Do they really need to close out the year strong? And yeah, they need to win like 1 more. They do want to lock down that number 1 seed. And Patrick Mahomes, while he's done this before, he's played through a high ankle sprain before. We saw against the Philadelphia Eagles in the Super Bowl. So obviously things are going to be different, right? Like if you're in the Super Bowl, if you're on a team, like I think this was the same game that Isaiah Pacheco played through a broken hand, maybe. Maybe that was the other Super Bowl. But either way, right? The point remains. If you're in the Super Bowl, if your team's in the Super Bowl, and if you're even able to play at 50%, you're going out there. And while Patrick Mahomes with a high ankle sprain in the Super Bowl went 21-27, 182 pass yards, 3 passing touchdowns, and even had 44 rush yards. He looked fine on a high ankle sprain. I remember it being just absolutely remarkable. And well, this week, Andy Reid has already told reporters that Mahomes has practiced in some capacity on Tuesday, limited practice on Tuesday. And he told The Athletic, let's just see what he does. Today's a lighter day. He'll talk to me. The doctor will talk to me. And if he can go, he'll go. If he can't, he can't. It's that simple. That's how we'll roll. I'll just take it day by day and see how he does. Patrick Mahomes told The Athletic, I think it's done good with the treatment. You have to push it. That's the reason you play this game. You push to play. I'm not going to put our team in a bad position. It's about seeing where I'm at. I'm a competitor. I want to go out there and play. It's important to note that the Chiefs game is on Saturday. You know, as we get to this point in the season, we do have Saturday games, unfortunately. I know a lot of us love it, but I feel like I'm in the camp that every game should just be on Sunday. Maybe it's just because I'm on the East Coast, but I like having everything on one day. But either way, Patrick Mahomes playing the Texans on Saturday, and then beyond that has another game next week. Next Wednesday, Christmas Day. So a very quick turnaround in terms of this injury. And it's looking like he's going to do it right now. And maybe we should have expected it, right? Patrick Mahomes has done this before. It's really just incredible. In the wise words of James Palmer from Underdog, he said that we've been through this before. He's not human, and we need to stop treating him as such, and that's just so true. Patrick Mahomes playing through a high ankle sprain, if he does it this week, that's really just insane behavior. I think he could take a week off. I understand the competitive spirit. But like, dude, you should probably want to be healthy for the playoffs. That's at least how I would look at it. That's how I feel the Chiefs should look at it. And I'm honestly shocked that they're not. That they are more worried about this number 1 seed than their all-star quarterback, you know, being healthy for the playoff push. It's an ever-developing situation. I'm sure right now it's at 50-50, but it's definitely something to monitor as Patrick Mahomes, we kind of thought he was dead in the water on Monday, and now it's looking like there's a chance he can play. Which then, of course, begs the question, if I'm in the fantasy playoffs and I have Patrick Mahomes, do I play him? And, I mean, it depends what your other option is, and that's probably the question you've had to ask yourself all year if you have Patrick Mahomes. If you're still in the playoffs, if you're in the semifinals with Patrick Mahomes, I mean, because he sunk a lot of teams. And if you're here, you probably have another option, and I would probably say roll with that option. Because not only is he going to be way less than 100%, he's already been pretty average at best this season. But then the Texans have kind of been putting teams in these bad games. They're winning, right? But they're just like we just saw Tua struggle. They're just like in the 20s. They're not really high scoring shootout type contests. And I don't see that happening this week either, especially on a short week. So I would look yourself in the face, see what your other options are, and more than likely pivot if Patrick Mahomes does play. That's how I look at it. And speaking of another major injury that happened over the weekend, David Montgomery is, of course, expected to miss the rest of the season with his knee injury, which leaves the door open for Jahmyr Gibbs, of course. And we saw last year, Jahmyr Gibbs had 2 games without David Montgomery. In those 2 games, he scored 27.6 points and 29.9 points, respectively, was a top 3 running back in both of those weeks, and had 20 or more touches in both of those games. In fact, in week 8 against the Raiders, he had 31 touches, 26 carries, 5 receptions for 189 yards and a touchdown. And surprisingly, even in that game, Craig Reynolds had 14 carries and a reception. The Lions ran the ball into the ground in that game. The game before that, Jahmyr Gibbs had 11 carries and 9 receptions, and Craig Reynolds only touched the ball 4 times. And that's exactly how I expected to go these next couple weeks. Jahmyr Gibbs has become a league winner. He already kind of was, right? I mean, if you had Jahmyr Gibbs, your team was probably doing well. But now he has this backfield to himself, and I know damn sure the Lions aren't really worried about giving the ball to Craig Reynolds. I'm sure he's going to get a couple carries. But I think it's going to look a lot more like it did last year, where Jahmyr Gibbs had back-to-back 25-plus point games, gets 70-80% of the volume, and absolutely crushes to end the year. So congratulations to everyone that has Jahmyr Gibbs. What a piece to have. Seriously, well done. And, I mean, that's really all she wrote in terms of my takes on that. But Dan Campbell has come out and talked about what the expectations should be. And he said that we have a lot of confidence in Gibbs. In the opportunity, he's made a lot of plays. He brings the explosive element, getting better in the pass game. And you see what he does in the run game. So we have a ton of confidence. But he did note that he is trying not to overwork Jahmyr Gibbs. He said, I think for him, it's going to be, we've got to use and maximize the reps that we have for him and be careful that we don't give him too much. We still got to be able to be smart with him, but we need him, and that's the trick. So those other guys, Craig's going to need to help us, which he'll be ready, and Baki potentially as well. The Lions will be using other backs, but it's the Gibbs show, particularly once the postseason hits. That's from NFL.com, and I have to agree. I have to agree that Jahmyr Gibbs is going to get it all. I'm glad to hear that the Lions are going to be cognizant. Maybe if it's like, the game's out of hand, they could start putting in Craig Reynolds a bit more. But for the most part, if you have Jahmyr Gibbs, you should be supremely confident in his ability the next few weeks and be ecstatic in your league-winning running back. The next story I want to talk about is Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams and the Bears have actually gone on an 8-game losing streak, and Caleb Williams had this to say. It's been frustrating and encouraging. I would say the frustrating part is obviously we're on an 8-game losing streak, and that's new to me. I haven't experienced anything like this, and that's the frustrating part. The encouraging part is how much we fight as a team. Being able to go through all what's happened this year, me not playing well at the beginning of the season and feeling like I wasn't seeing it well, and then being able to find ways to keep growing, keep progressing through those times that I was frustrated. Coaches getting fired, all this stuff going on. We're 4-10 right now, but we're able to wake up, be consistent, do that every day with how it's been going, and that's encouraging for me. And it's encouraging for this team, and we've got to keep going. It's encouraging, but it's frustrating. And he kind of went on talking about how much he's been facing pressure. And he says, say you get in 3 car accidents a month. You're going to feel it. That's what a hit in football is. And you take those over time, and it builds up. And his offensive line has said that that's really all on him. So hopefully going forward, they can, of course, work on the offensive line, work on this team, and get better. And really, I think that that's all we can ask for from Caleb Williams and the Chicago Bears. Just get better, recognize your mistakes, and figure out how you can go forward in terms of fixing them. And Caleb Williams is right. The Chicago Bears are fighting. They have been playing better. They're still losing, but they have been playing better. And again, that's all we can ask. I also just love, the wherewithal. Caleb Williams recognizing these issues, working on them, and feeling encouraged by the downs. That's really what it takes to succeed in this league. I do still think he has it. And as we talked about, we were buying him after he struggled. We're still probably buying him in Dynasty, especially as he's lost a little bit of steam over the last couple weeks. But it's just important to remember the type of prospect he was, why we really liked him, and also look at the rest of the Bears team. This is a really good offense around him. They just need to figure out the coaching staff and the offensive line. And even then, we've still seen some decent weeks from him. I mean, we had 2 25-point games just over the last few weeks. 340 yards and 2 touchdowns versus Minnesota. 250 yards and 3 touchdowns versus Detroit. Really, really good stuff from Caleb Williams in those games. Has, of course, come back to earth over the last couple weeks. But that's to be expected given everything that's going on. So I am encouraged by what I'm hearing from Caleb Williams and excited for the future of the Chicago Bears. Next story, of course, revolves around another team on a losing streak, my Atlanta Falcons. Busting out an emergency edit. As mentioned, guys, I intended to a family thing today. I was not home. I have my laptop with me at least so I could fix this. But I actually recorded a whole segment that's now going to be lost to time about how I didn't want the Falcons to bench Kirk Cousins. There was actually a news article that came out when I originally recorded this episode talking about it, hinting at it. Kirk Cousins was interviewed. Raheem Morris was interviewed. I mean, I'm sure that you guys saw this yesterday, just kind of the stuff about how they're not committal about the starting quarterback. And I kind of pleaded, not necessarily pleaded, but just, I don't think it makes a lot of sense. I really don't. I get the excitement about it. I think that all of us can get behind that, right? Like, we always love the new guy. We always love the future. That's something that we could get behind. But this division's not going to be won by the Falcons with or without Michael Penix, right? Like, the Buccaneers are winning the NFC South now at this point. We already know it. Yeah, sure, it's only one game back, but have you looked at the schedules for either team? The Buccaneers are more than likely going to win out. And even if they don't, it's not like the Falcons are really playing good football on both sides of the ball, right? Like, the defense still definitely has some holes in it. Like, the Buccaneers are a much better team. This Falcons team isn't a playoff team. To me, it made a lot more sense to stick to the original plan, which was to finish this year with Kirk Cousins as the starting quarterback. Because if you put Michael Penix in there, all he's going to do, more than likely, is pick up some bad habits like we saw in Carolina with Bryce Young, right? Where now next year, more than likely, he's going to have to unlearn some things before he can get back because the offensive line's looking a lot worse lately. Kyle Pitts hasn't been able to do anything. Darnell Mooney's starting to hit the floor. Ray McLeod's starting to hit the floor. Bijan Robinson hasn't been as elite as we wanted him to be either. So I just still think it makes a lot more sense, as exciting as it is, to let the rookie quarterback sit and learn. That was always the plan. And yeah, sure, the Falcons could sit there and tell me that, yeah, our plan also wasn't to go 7-7 at this point. But is Michael Penix really going to do that much better than Kirk Cousins? Seriously, maybe. Probably, maybe. I don't know. I mean, we saw Michael Penix look pretty decent in the preseason. We saw him go out there this season a couple times in lieu of Kirk Cousins, at the end of games. Not often, but in those times, he's looked fine. I'm sure that he's a good NFL quarterback. But I don't really know what the Falcons stand to gain by putting Michael Penix out there right now. I really don't. Because, again, if you look at Kirk Cousins' stats this year, they look a lot better on paper than they have on the field. I'll give him that. But he's still top 10 in pace of play, protection rate, pass attempts, pass yards, 8 air yards. He's top 10 in catchable pass rate, deep ball accuracy, play action, completion percentage. These are all stats that we're fine with at quarterbacks, and I'm honestly shocked to see that he's 7th in passing yards this season, 6th in air yards. Honestly shocked. It doesn't seem like it's been that good. And I know that over the last few weeks that has kind of been the issue here, right? He only has 1 touchdown since week 9 with 9 interceptions in that span. It's horrible. It's horrible. I get it. I understand. But again, I'm not going to be surprised if Michael Penix goes out there this weekend and does a very similar Kirk Cousins stat line. 300 yards, maybe a touchdown, couple interceptions. So to me, I really think it just made more sense to sit him. Because I already know that this is going to devolve into an Atlanta Falcons situation, which is exactly what we called from the beginning, right? We said that this Kirk Cousins signing was going to be the most Atlanta Falcons thing ever. That it was going to start off well, and then it would all crash and burn like it always does for the Atlanta Falcons. Like it always does for the Atlanta Falcons. And admittedly, I was even too hopeful. You know, I thought that this Falcons team would make the wild card and leave and lose in round 1 to, I don't know, the Eagles or something like that, like an actual good team in classic Atlanta Falcons fashion. But now we're not even getting that far. Now we're already pulling the plug on the veteran quarterback that we brought on literally to finish the season and be a bridge, to mentor and teach Michael Penix, and to take the pressure off of him for a season. And then next year, they could evaluate. And now, I mean, we know for a fact, of course, right? Like Michael Penix is definitely starting next year. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I'm very curious to see where Kirk Cousins ends up, if anywhere. And of course, my recommendation is going to be buy Michael Penix, right? We're going to be excited about the Falcons quarterback, just like we were excited about Kirk Cousins this year. We've seen some ceiling games from Kirk Cousins this year. I just think it's really weird timing to bench Kirk Cousins after he finally breaks the losing streak, finally throws his first touchdown pass in weeks. I don't understand it. I really think the best case of action would have been to end the year as planned and then evaluate. But I'm happy to be proven wrong. I am excited, as mentioned. I think Michael Dick is going to be incredible. At least I hope so. But then are we really going to be so surprised if the one bust rookie quarterback from this damn first round is the Atlanta Falcons quarterback? I mean, at this point, that's kind of just what I'm expecting. I think at the very least, what I'm looking at in this Michael Penix situation is more than likely he's going to show some flashes, which is exciting for a rookie quarterback. But I think overall, he's going to have to struggle. He's a rookie at the end of the year when teams are fighting to make the playoffs. I really just think that this is poor timing. And it's just so Atlanta Falcons to have this type of poor timing. So while I am excited, I am concerned that the Falcons are kind of prioritizing and forcing upon us a future decision instead of just letting the future happen. Because Michael Penix is damn sure the future of the Falcons. We're excited about that. We know that. They spent that 8th pick on him for a reason. But they did not spend that 8th pick for him to start at week 16 of the NFL season. It really just doesn't click for me. I'm not a huge fan of it. I think it'll end up being fine, but I just don't think it makes enough of a difference to do it. I really don't. Happy to be proven wrong. I'm curious what you guys think. I already know that this is going to be a very, very controversial opinion on this situation, but that's just how I feel. That's just how I feel because, again, Kirk Cousins is top 10 in a number of metrics, and I understand that he's not scoring the touchdowns, that he's losing some big games, but can we really fault the guy for losing to some other playoff teams? The Vikings, the Chargers, the Broncos, and yes, the Saints, but that was just in New Orleans. Younghoe Koo missed a bunch of field goals. Like, things were just off in that game. It wasn't Kirk Cousins' fault. Not necessarily. You could say so, since he only had 300 yards, 1 interception, and no touchdowns. But quarterbacks should be allowed to go through a little spurt like this. I really do believe that. Especially veterans that you're paying that type of money for. With a rookie that needs to learn, he's always been a project, and I understand that he showed some flashes in the preseason, that he's shown some flashes this season, but those are just flashes. This is real football against real teams and real situations, and I really find it hard to believe that this is the correct decision. Happy to be proven wrong. Happy. But as of right now, I can't agree with it. As excited as I am, I'm excited. I am. I have Michael Penix in so many dynasty teams. But it was a dynasty asset. I wasn't looking for it this year, and now I'm honestly kind of concerned about it being this year. I just am. I feel like it's going to go poorly. I feel like he's going to go out there, get sacked immediately, and lose a bunch of confidence. And ultimately, that's what matters for the quarterback is confidence. Ultimately. So I really think it's a poor handling of the situation. I've gone on and rambled about that for too long, but that's where I'm at. Kirk Cousins, horrible stretch, but a perfectly fine season on a team that I think has way more issues at this point than just the quarterback position. Because this has been an issue for a couple seasons. And it seems that every piece that leaves Atlanta ends up doing fine. So I just have to ask, is it Kirk Cousins' fault or is it Atlanta's? Another big story from around the league is this Diontae Johnson situation. As we saw a few weeks back, Diontae Johnson refused to go back into the game against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Or against the Eagles. Sorry, they're coming up against the Steelers. And ever since then, Diontae Johnson has not been a part of the team. He was given a 1-game suspension for conduct detrimental to the team. And officially, starting yesterday, the Ravens have mutually agreed, along with Diontae Johnson, I assume, to excuse him from all team activities for the rest of the season. Meaning, of course, Diontae Johnson is done in Baltimore and will end his career as a Raven with only 1 catch for 6 yards. Sounds about right. Sounds about right. Really not sure what to say beyond that besides, like, what the hell, Diontae? Seriously. You had so much potential, so much opportunity, and just threw it away for what? What team is really going to want to take a chance on him? I'm sure there is one out there, right? I mean, wide receivers are, important these days, but still. The fact that you are detrimental to the team on a playoff team is just ridiculous. I mean, seriously, like, this is a team that's heading potentially for the Super Bowl. And you just want to throw a hissy fit? You don't want to play? Come on, Diontae. I've always wondered why he rubbed me the wrong way. I think we've talked about this a few times. He's always one of those players that just falls into my fine category. I've never really had any shares of him. I don't like drafting him, even if he's fine. I don't know why. I've never been able to explain it. It's just kind of always been in here. And now I kind of know why. He just doesn't care about football. And now we're seeing it, unfortunately. Because, I mean, the potential was good. The Ravens needed another wide receiver. They did. But now they don't have one. Now they're not using one. Diontae Johnson excused from team activities. I do want to say Tez Walker finally got a touchdown. We've been waiting for that all year. So we finally got the Devontae Walker touchdown. And I'm excited to see how that develops in Baltimore because that was one prospect I was pretty excited about. I mean, he was a sleeper. Like, it wasn't like I was like, oh, he's going to be amazing. But, the Ravens field stretcher always has a chance, right? They use that in their offense. There's always someone. And so to see Tez Walker score a touchdown, I think that's big news. Hopefully that trends in the right direction without Diontae Johnson. And speaking of rookie receivers, Brian Thomas Jr. has officially broken the Jaguars rookie receiving record. Right now, he is at 956 yards, and that is about 90 yards more than the record of 865 held by Justin Blackmon. He also tied right now with Justin Blackmon for most receptions, so he will be breaking that next week. Right now, it's 64. Just incredible stuff. Head coach Doug Peterson has said that he's had a heck of a season. Not only here in Jacksonville, but in the NFL. I think there's more. He can be better as well, which is just great to hear. And, for those of you that like tugging at your heartstrings, it was pretty cool to hear as well that Brian Thomas's whole family was at the game where he broke that record. So that was really cool for him and his family as well. Really just want to shout out Brian Thomas Jr. and what he's been able to do this season. A lot of people faded him. And I, at the very least, didn't necessarily fade him, but I was, right around where everyone else was. I had him at least above Ladd McConkey and Keon Coleman and the running backs. But I didn't expect this with Christian Kirk, with Evan Ingram, at least not as a rookie, right? I mean, I felt that there had to be a reason that he was valued so much less than Malik Neighbors. But that'll prove to be one of the biggest mistakes of this year's draft. Not just the rookie draft, but the NFL draft. The teams that passed on Brian Thomas Jr., they have to be kicking themselves because he's a true stud. He's 7th in fantasy points right now. He's 8th in receiving yards. And he really is just crushing it in a year where Trevor Lawrence and the Jaguars were not good and playing even better with Mac Jones somehow. Brian Thomas Jr. deserves an applause. So shout out everyone that took a chance on him. Shout out everyone that has him in Dynasty. And you got yourself a good one. And I'm excited to see where he can go from here. And the last bit of news I want to talk about is a potential future All-Star in the NFL as well. And that's Travis Hunter, as you could see from the thumbnail. Travis Hunter is, of course, he just won the Heisman. He's a hybrid player, offense, defense, corner, wide receiver. And he's entering the draft this year. And we haven't ever really seen anything like this. Very unique, especially in terms of him being elite on both sides of the ball, right? He won the Heisman, of course, awesome stuff. He finished the year with 1,100 receiving yards, 14 touchdowns. But on defense, he won the Defensive Player of the Year award, the Bednarik Award. He had 21 solo tackles, a tackle for loss, 4 interceptions, 11 passes defended, a forced fumble, was a true lockdown corner this season. And so, we're nearing the time now where he's more than likely going to have to make a decision, or the NFL is going to have to make a decision for him. There's not necessarily true two-way players like there is in the like he could be in college. There's just no way. There's just absolutely no way that he can play all the snaps on offense and all the snaps on defense. Could he play all the snaps on one side and some snaps on another? Sure. And well, that's looking like how it's trending. For those of us that were hoping Travis Hunter would be a true wide receiver at the NFL, it has come out from Jay Glazer on NFL on Fox that he has been interviewing head coaches and GMs, so far only 13, but 12 of those 13 said that they would be putting Travis Hunter as a cornerback. Only one of those said wide receiver. And fun fact, all 13 of those said that they would put him at corner or wide receiver due to his elite ball skills, right? So the coach or GM that said he'd be a good wide receiver said that he would be able to do that because he could catch the ball. And same thing about the players or the coaches and GMs that said they'd put him on defense because he has elite ball skills and would be able to make some interceptions and stuff like that. To see that kind of number, 12 of 13, I'm assuming that Jay Glazer is well connected, that these are some decent head coaches and GMs that know what they're talking about. I think I get it. I don't think it takes much thought to understand why Travis Hunter would be put on defense. There are not a lot of shutdown corners out there in the league. And it's a lot easier for him to play every snap on defense and then go out and have a few plays designed for him on offense. Right? Go out and be a wide receiver 2 here or there. But for the most part, his main role is to be a shutdown corner. And I think, honestly, that's how I would approach it as well. Very curious to see how this will go. I'm sure that Travis Hunter is going to spend this entire process saying he wants to play both sides of the ball always. And I'm sure that at some point he's going to acquiesce and say he wants to play on offense because they make more money. But ultimately, the NFL and the team that he lands on can kind of make that decision. And I'm very curious to see how he goes. At the very least, he's going to break IDP leagues. So that's pretty exciting stuff. He's 100% going to break IDP leagues. So that's pretty exciting for those of you with rookie picks and IDP drafts. I think that'll be very, very fun. It's going to be a situation that develops So we're not we're not officially ending it here as him being a corner that'll sometimes play wide receiver, but that's currently how things are trending. And I wanted to go ahead and put you guys in the picture because I know that we're trading for rookie picks right now. And I know a lot of you are hoping to get Travis Hunter. It looks like he's going to be more focused on defense. He's a better corner than he is a wide receiver. He can play both, but it's just like at the NFL, it's a whole nother animal. It truly is. And he's just not going to be able to play both completely. Very curious to see how it goes. Going to be a fun story all season. Going to be a massive headache. But who doesn't love another storyline to add to the fun draft craze? Everyone, that will do it. Thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe. And make sure you have a great day. I will see you tomorrow with Maddie Kiwoom on the show. Will be a fun episode, so make sure you tune into that. Everyone, have a wonderful Wednesday. Fantastic rest of your week. And I'll see you tomorrow. Peace.
Hey, I want to thank you for being part of this broadcast. If you have any thoughts on it, leave a comment. If you enjoyed it, make sure you leave a like. And if you want to see more shows on the Player Profiler channel, subscribe to it. That's how we know you want more.